I'll give you an example. I grew up in a little farming community outside of Princeton by the name of Farmersville, Kentucky. That ought to tell you something. My grandmother, who was a wonderful lady, her name was Mackie Van Hooser, my father's mother, was the consummate country grandmother. And when I say consummate country grandmother, I want you to know I'm not exaggerating. In all of her life, I never saw her in anything but a dress or a skirt, certainly never pants or shorts or a bathing suit. Her dress was always very plain. Her hair was always pulled up in a bun and always had a net on her head. She wore an apron. In that apron always was two pockets. The left-hand pocket, she always had a handkerchief. She believed that you could conquer the world with a handkerchief. In the right-hand pocket, a can of snuff, okay? My grandmother dipped a little snuff, okay? But that's my grandmother. She cooked on a wood stove until the day she died, and she died in April 1974. She never had indoor plumbing her entire life in over 80 years on this planet. And I want you to know something. I love that woman so much. So much. And I relished the opportunity to be with my grandmother, to be in her home, to watch her do what she did. And she loved her grandchildren, not just me, but my cousins and brothers and sister as well. And I remember one particular occasion that has been very, very instrumental as I talked to leaders and managers over the years. And it happened on an occasion when I was about 5 or 6 years old, best I can remember, but I remember the occasion exceptionally well. I was at her house and she was making homemade biscuits. Now, this was not unusual. She did it almost every day of her life. It's just that I had the opportunity to be there on that particular day. She had flour on her apron and her dress, and she was rolling things out, and she was shuffling around the kitchen. And this may come as a big surprise to you. Even as a little kid, I like to talk. And therefore, as my grandmother was doing what she was doing, I was right on her heels, and I was just talk. I bet she didn't say 5 words in 20 minutes. She didn't have to. I was doing all the talking for both of us. Anyway, as she finished up one activity with the biscuits, she stopped, and I remember so well, she just kind of wiped her hands and rubbed them on her apron, and then she bent over and she said, "Son, come here. Come here." And I thought, oh, this is great. This is great. I'm going to have my grandmother's undivided attention. And I did. I did have her undivided attention because when I went to her, I walked and she put her hands on my shoulders. Now, I don't know if you've been around elderly folks lately or not, but sometimes they need someone to brace, to steady themselves a little bit. And I thought that's exactly what she was doing. But then it didn't take very much time to realize that's not what she was doing at all, because I felt the pressure on the shoulders, and my grandmother proceeded to get down on her knee. Now, the dynamic had changed. She's still holding my shoulders, but now what's happened? We, for the first time that I could ever remember, were on the same level. Looking eyeball to eyeball, communicating one-on-one in very close proximity. And again, I loved it. Even at that early stage, I knew something was special about this. This is something I need to remember, something that I don't ever want to forget. And so I guess I was even tuned in more than I normally would have. So as she held my shoulders, looked in my eyes, she said something that day that I have never forgotten. She said, "Shut up!" Now, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that. And I remember I recoiled. You would have too. When she screamed those words, I recoiled, but her grip tightened. And in fact, she pulled me to herself. And as she pulled me to herself, she wrapped her arms around me so tightly that in my mind's eye, I can still see and feel the compression. And when she had me totally immobilized, she whispered these words in my ear. She said, "Son, you need to realize that when you're talking, you never learn anything. It's only when you're willing to shut up and listen that you might just learn something. You are working with men and women who have dedicated themselves to your industry and in many cases your business. And yet, are we giving them the time and attention that's appropriate and necessary for us to learn as much from them as we wish for them to learn from us?